Hi everyone. First of all, thank you all for joining us today. Really excited to be here. So, as James mentioned, I'm Caroline from Anzu. So we're one of the leaders in game and one of the most advanced in-game advertising platforms. So today we're going to be talking to you about some of the developments in gaming over the past year and kind of what that means to you. So Anzu is on a mission to make in-game advertising better for you, for game developers, and also for gamers themselves. We do this by allowing you to programmatically serve both display and video ads in games across mobile, PC, console, and the metaverse. We've been around for about 6 years and are backed by industry leaders like WPP, NBC Universal, HTC, and Sony, to name a few. And also work with some great brands including Samsung, Levi's, Tommy Hilfiger, to put their games in our top tier games. We also work with some trusted third-party tech vendors to offer you kind of viewability audits, fraud detection, and also measurement solutions. So, gaming. Why now? So, every third person in the world plays games. Gaming is the next media frontier, and it's more popular with newer generations than social media is. Earlier this year, the IAB and the MRC came together with the whole industry to actually update some of the in-game measurement guidelines, and this is the first time they've actually been updated since 2009. These updates will actually have a much bigger effect on games as we kind of move into 3D worlds and also work with more premium games. Also, for the first time, Xbox and PlayStation have announced that they're also moving into the in-game space by allowing their publishers to launch in-game ads. And then finally, tech giants like Google and Amazon are also moving to prioritize higher quality ad experiences, showing that kind of in-game and non-disruptive formats really are more relevant than ever. So that's kind of it from me as an introduction. I'd like to invite onto stage our panel. So we have Michael Isaacs-Olaye, from Integral Ad Science, one of the leaders in digital media quality, Scott Curtis from Spark Foundry, a global media agency within Publicis Media, and then we were supposed to have Lumen, Mike Follett from Lumen. Sadly, he was unable to make it. Thanks, Scott. But luckily for you guys, Chris, our VP of Demand at Anzu, has stepped in at the last minute. So thanks for joining us, Chris. Great. So I've given a bit of an introduction into what's happened over the past kind of few years in gaming, and Anzu is obviously really proud to be at the forefront of that. But starting with Scott, maybe we could talk about kind of what do these changes mean, and what does this kind of shift in gaming becoming a go-to advertising channel mean for advertisers?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that I'm a big gamer, and I'm super passionate about playing games in the channel, and I brought that into like my professional career into a media agency, and I think one of the things that surprised me coming into it was there were so many barriers when it comes to gaming and activating game. James mentioned it earlier, but you know there was kind of this stigma, this preconception that gamers were just sweaty teenagers. And working groups and the IAB helped, I think, to change those misconceptions, as did social and mobile. They changed the world, right? and suddenly your mum was on Farmville, the person on the train next to you was playing Candy Crush. And we got over that stigma. We knew it was a big audience, and we knew that we could do a lot of advertising around it. Next up, I think, was the in-game piece, which was about the fact that it was difficult to do in-game advertising. Only like the most persevering clients were willing to wait for the lead times to make that happen. And then along came technological advancements from Anzu and from players so that we can start to put things dynamically into in-game. So I think when it comes to in-game advertising, we are probably at the best place that we have ever been at. But to be honest, I think there's still work to be done, and you heard it from Simon earlier, that in terms of the number of people playing games versus like the spend on games, there's still a gap. There's still things that we could do.
Cool. Chris?
Hi. I think also, just to follow that, it's kind of a lot of the work's been done, but absolutely there still is more to do. I think one of the crucial bits is generating that kind of buyer confidence, and whether that's the actual kind of brand themselves, or the agency in terms of kind of how that's justified and how that place on the plan is carved out. I think one of the things that kind of we kind of Anzu, we kind of prioritise is putting the tools in place to do that, whether that's tech partners, whether that's different kind of offerings, but it's absolutely about kind of building that confidence and that trust. James just kind of before we came on talked about brand safety and the environment itself. Gaming has evolved massively, and if you think of kind of the journey that digital's had, we've certainly got quicker in terms of how we do those things, and so the learning curve's been a lot steeper. And it's very much just those building blocks that build that buyer confidence, that agency confidence, and gaming's growing up. I mean, it's a far cry from where it was before, and it can do more. But we're on that journey, and I think that, yeah, that growing up is an important part of how it justifies itself within a media plan.
Cool. Agreed. So viewability, I think, is essential across all digital formats. And we've brought a kind of new audit. We've got new guidelines in place. And Michael, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but the most recent data that we have from IAS shows that the average viewable rate for our in-game ads is 94%. So starting with you, Michael, what is the kind of importance of a third-party audit? And how important are the recent kind of measurement guidelines, this update, and how much credibility does it actually bring to gaming?
Sure, yeah, the fun stuff, viewability. Yeah, so I do think that let's consider that it's been 13 years, right, since since the last set of updates from the MRC about sort of standardization within the industry, and I think that's what this is all about, is bringing that standardization, allowing gaming to be just another channel. In the same way that we have CTV, display, video, whatever it might be, it's an easy part of the media mix that we can just plug in from the buy side. And it's important to recognize that that's what these new set of rules essentially put into place. When you have that, it then means that you are able to measure gaming and how effective it is as a channel against the rest of those other parts of that media mix. We know that gaming is obviously significantly more immersive, right, as an experience, and as such, it's going to have higher engagement, it's going to have higher ad recall, so on and so forth. All of these things that I think we assume, or we have seen research saying it, we can actually put that into practice now much easier. I think as a third-party measurement company like IAS, what we want to do is we want to allow buyers to be able to buy with confidence. And I think that that's not something that's necessarily been able to occur before. And I think that as we look at gaming as a new or emerging medium, it's important to note that we can actually help buyers now actually buy with confidence. I think what we want to do is allow them to do a couple of things. One of them being to ensure that as an advertiser, your ad's been actually seen by a real person and is in an environment that you actually want it to be in. And then the second thing is to be able to optimize, which you weren't really able to actively do before. when you do such things, you can then actually you can start to bring a more sort of uniform view to the way that you look at your entire marketing mix. And I think what we want to do is allow that to continue to happen. Like I said, give buyers more confidence in the ability to buy games, and as such, you'll see more media dollars start to flow into these sort of new mediums such as gaming.
Yeah, and I just building on that, actually, I think it really does do that. You talk about credibility with a set of standards. What it actually does is it gives you viability, I think, because if you look at the way that you're constructing a media plan, if you don't have a clear set of guidelines for how you're going to be measuring and optimizing, then you're always going to be in that 10% bucket, right? If you think of the 70-20-10, 70 being your bread and butter, 20% being like scaled innovation, and 10% being pure play innovation. Without robust measurement, you're always going to fall into that 10% bucket. Stuff like this, where we've got third party coming in and we've got like a clear set of guidelines, allows you to scale it from that 10% to the 20 to the 70. And I think another point on this as well is that having like a good third party coming into this, it stops players marking their own homework, which is a real headache. From a buyer side, from a media agency side, we get people coming to us all the time saying, hey, here's something that's really cool. And it's like, in order to buy from you, I've really got to take a leap of faith. Whereas actually, if we have a clear set of third-party guidelines and a clear set of how we're going to measure and assess success, then that's only going to add one, credibility to the platform, but also two, that a really good job's going to have been done from the IAS. Like, it's going to be a thorough piece of work that they're going to put their name to and stake their reputation on.
I think I liked the fact that you chuckled over the fun bit of viewability. For me, we're having this conversation with some of our New York team the other day. Viewability is not sexy. Viewability is not I'm sorry. This is where we fall out. Viewability is, apart from obviously, viewability is not sexy. For me, and for the way we structure at Anzu, it's a must-have. It is, for all the reasons that Scott just kind of outlined there. For us to break out, for us to scale, and this isn't just Anzu, this is about the whole industry, has to have those building blocks in. Our platform has been built around viewability, and kind of having that as the primary thing. So the fact that I've just offended Michael by saying not sexy, but also we're partnered with Moat as well, so we're cheating on them. But we're kind of that kind of preference, that kind of must-have kind of status is the bit that then starts to build that confidence. It starts to develop that. And also one of the other things that I don't think has been referenced so far is that cross-comparability, that it starts to put it on an even playing field with other parts that are on other kind of channels that are on a media mix, because you can then start to say, right, well, we've got some confidence in that number. We know that that deserves to be there because it's backed up by IS, backed up by Moat. And so, for me, it's an absolute pillar of what the industry should have. And if you're buying it, like, why would you buy without it? Controversial.
Thanks, Chris. So I think we're all agreed viewability is a must, but also gaming is one of the most immersive kind of entertainment channels out there. There's no second screening. Gamers actually have to be really involved when they're playing. You can't really, drive a race car without your foot on the pedal and steering. So it kind of really brings attention to a new height. And sadly, we don't have Lumen here, but we did actually recently do some research with them. So we've done kind of campaigns with them over the past 12 months. We looked at aggregating those kind of measures, and I'm just going to read them from here because I don't want to get it wrong. But we actually found that gamers are 34% more likely to view in-game ads compared to other formats, and they actually spend twice as long viewing them than digital benchmarks. So, Chris, as kind of Mike's stand-in here, what do these results mean?
I've effectively stitched myself up here. Viewability is the must. Viewability is the pillar. But viewability is, if you break it down, it's the opportunity to be seen, whereas attention is taking that much bit further, if I can get that out. It's taking it past, is that advert seen, to was the advert seen and was it impactful? And the fact that we can then measure that, and kind of all the players here today can partner with the likes of Lumen and provide that measurement, it just gives that added kind of clue, it gives that added kind of research and data point that shows, yeah, kind of, I'm getting backed up results by the fact that it's viewable and highly viewable, but then actually it's having an impact. It's not just that it appeared on screen and if we look at the screen behind, that the advert was in a tiny fraction of the corner. No, that advert did something. That advert had an impact. And I think that's the bit that is that crucial kind of feed in to that evaluation of the media mix and the performance of the campaign, and something that kind of the results speak for itself, that it does have an impact, because why wouldn't it? If you think kind of, and we always talk about gaming, kind of this sweeping statement of it could be, and I've got my hands full here, so in fact I left my phone upstairs, which is even better. If you've got, kind of gaming could be your mobile phone, gaming could be a phone on the train coming here, it could be someone sat there with their PC on a slightly bigger screen, it could be an enormous screen in your living room playing on a PlayStation. They're different experiences and you'll get different results from those. And I think that knowing that and knowing that how engaged people are, there's no way, and I've got a 9-year-old son who plays on his Switch, there is no way he's going to listen to me, other than certain keywords of his dinner's ready, to stop playing and stop engaging with that game. And so if you can put a brand in that environment, that's valuable. People are recognizing that, people are seeing that, and then the high recall and awareness and uplift in product purchase intent, that's all stuff that, like, it's cross-comparable again, and it's a strong performer for it. It's the unique part of gaming.
Yeah. And Scott or Michael, do you want to jump in on that? I mean, is there any kind of comparisons between other media?
Yeah, I know that, by the way, this rings true. I know that if my missus tries to speak to me when I'm gaming, be it on the phone or on the console, then she's got none of my attention. And she's a big gamer, by the way, so it goes both ways. But what I would say is, if you show to me that someone is 34% more likely to see your ad in an in-game environment, and they're going to look at it for twice as long, and I know that attention is correlated with all your good brand measures, awareness, preference, and purchase intent, I'm going to pay attention.
Yeah, I think these guys have kind of nailed it. The only thing I would sort of say on top of that is, I think at IAS, we also measure things like cumulative viewability, right? And, if we have a character in a game that stood in front of an ad for, a period of time. Now, according to the MRC standards, that's one impression, that's fine, right? But he could be stood in front of that for, say, 60 seconds. The amount of attention that would be drawn to that ad is significant, not really something that you get in many other environments. And so I think it's important to highlight that as well.
Cool. So I'm very conscious of timing. The last panel kind of ended with this as well, but I'd love to know kind of in one sentence, what's next for gaming? Where do you see it going over the next 12 months? So Scott, do you want to start?
Sure. When I was mobile guy, I said to my bosses then that my job is to do myself out of a job. And I think that is probably true of where gaming needs to be at the moment. Like, it's all good that we're having these conversations now, and I think it's crucial to raise the awareness, to know that it's a fantastic channel. But I would hope at some point in the future we're not having these conversations because it's just a known.
Cool. Michael?
Yeah, I think for the next 12 months, I'd like to see as much testing and learning as possible. I think that we've got the standards, which is a base for us all to work from. I think now is the time for us to actually see what the results of this could be. We talked about all these fancy, great things, but to put the question on people like the buy side, then in that case, why would you not spend in a game environment versus, say, YouTube, for example? Now's the time to test, now's the time to learn, and that goes for companies like us as well, to be able to grow and ensure that we're doing our service for this medium.
Chris?
Next 12 months is hugely exciting. Console coming online, so we're doing that shortly with PlayStation games coming up in the next month or two. It's AAA games. It's household names that kind of the marketing department of a big brand is going to know, recognise, want to be in. It's those AAA games on big screens, and it's going to be really exciting. And I think those pillars, when they're put in place across the board, we need the whole industry to grow. It's not just us kind of forging it. And so, yeah, it's kind of an exciting 12 months.
Cool. And that kind of nicely wraps us up there. So I just want to allow you guys to kind of watch this. Maybe turn off the sound if that's okay. So this is... Turn off the sound. Sorry, thanks. So this is actually Dakar Desert Rally, which only launched about 2 weeks ago from Sabre Interactive, which is part of Embracer Group. It's one of the biggest game kind of studios out there. It's a amazing AAA, highly immersive game, and we've got 2 gaming rigs out in the networking area. So I'd love you guys to actually come and experience it, see what the gamer sees. We've got Anzu ads in there, so you can actually see where the placements are and kind of see what they would see. So yeah, please come and join us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very, very much indeed. Well, I've got you, Scott, because I was listening to you talking about being a mobile guy. Of course, I used to be a mobile guy as well, and we were sort of talking about these QR codes and things years and years ago, and guess what? Everyone's using them now. So we were right. Two questions for you. One, when you think about the early days of mobile, it was very, very exciting. What are the similarities between gaming? Are we sort of going down a similar path, like you've got to get standards and definitions and that kind of thing? And then the second question is, how do you turn clients on to this stuff? How do you get advertisers playing games, getting into it?
Yeah, so the first question, I think that gaming has benefited, and it's also a bit of a headache for gaming. It's benefited for being around for ages, right? And so we know what it is. Mobile was Wild West when we first started out in it. So gaming at least already has some and you know as well. At least
that's the sheriff over there of the Wild West. Is unbelievable.
We've got good foundations when it comes to gaming, which I think is really crucial. And I think when you look at things like setting standards, getting measurability, it's actually growing up really rapidly at the moment. We always said the year of mobile. It kind of just never was. I think in a way, no, I'm not going to say it. And then in terms of the other question, how do we get more clients and brands on board? I think we need more education, really, in all honesty. And that was a common thing with mobile. That was a common thing with all new technologies that I've worked with. The more that you educate, the more that you have proof points around hey, this is more viewable, more people are watching this, and people replicating those results for themselves, using that 10% budget to run a test to say, yeah, you know what, it works for my brand, my product, my audience, then it can start to scale. But we need to do that upfront education, which I think this type of thing, this type of arena is perfect for.
Give a massive hand for Anzu.